Okay, we're live here for the Islamic Finance Seminar talking about mental wealth and halal RSPs. We are going to give people a few minutes to join, inshallah, and then we will get started momentarily. If you guys have any questions related to RSPs, Islamic finance, halal investing, even halal mortgages, put them in the comments. We're going to try to answer them as we go. And, don't be shy. The whole point here is to be learning. So we hope to answer your questions as best we can. That's it for now. We'll wait a couple minutes and then we will get into the presentation.
Issues here. Hello.
Assalamualaikum, brother. Welcome.
Bro, it's all good. Is the audio?
Yeah, we're live right now. We're just waiting for a few more people to join, inshallah, and then we will get started on the presentation. We got a few more minutes. So for all of you guys who, if you wanted to have a kind of private conversation, you wanted to chat about things in a little bit more detail, or you wanted to have individual meetings with the Menzel Wealth team, you can go to menzel.ca/wealth and book a appointment, book a time to call. You can also reach out to any of the brothers here in the chat, and they can help you themselves. So why don't you guys go ahead and just put your email and contact information in the chat there so that people can reach out to you if needed. Okay, we're going to wait 2 more minutes and we're starting, whether or not people are late. Okay, we're going to give it 1 more minute, inshallah, and then we're going to get started. Once again, if you do have any questions on halal investing, halal RSPs, halal mortgages, any of these things, be sure to put them in the chat, in the comments. We're going to make sure that we answer them. We want to make sure that everyone who is attending and, trying to get this valuable information, inshallah, we want to make sure we answer all of your questions as best we can. And for those of you who perhaps live in Quebec and need some more of that the French hand holding, Mohammed Faiz is our representative in Quebec there, so he can help you in that respect as well, inshallah. Okay, so let's get started. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulullah. Jazakallah khair, everyone, for joining us. My name is Jesse. I am the leader at the Mental Wealth program here, and below us we've got some other members of our team, and today we are going to be going through halal RSPs, Mental Wealth, and kind of everything that you can expect from us. We're going to try and answer your questions about retirement planning, savings, buying a house in a halal way, all of these things. And this is going to be a relatively brief presentation, but the idea here is to give you some basic understanding as to how all these things work. And then when all is said and done, if you're ready to take that step to put some money in an RSP, to save on those taxes, to get ready to buy your house in a halal way, any number of these things, the team here below can absolutely help you do that. So to give you an introduction to the team, I'm going to let Brother Emran kind of take the lead on that and introduce the Menzel Wealth team and who we've got here working for you.
Hey, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. So we have Mr. Amani out here, who's the executive assistant for all handling all our back office. Of the Jesse, who's our senior wealth advisor and the lead for the Mandal Wealth platform. Myself, Imran Rahman. I've been working in the finance industry for the last decade, and and I've joined the Mandal Wealth just recently. But Alhamdulillah, it's a great team to work with, and we have Mohammed Faiz, who's joined us, and our French connection. So Alhamdulillah, he joined us and coming to us from Montreal. And finally, we also have with us Syed, who's in the Edmonton location, and he'll be joining with the Wealth Mandal team pretty soon, inshallah, as well. That's it. Jesse, back to you.
Yeah, so the one thing that we always kind of get questions on, comments about, is whether or not our investments and kind of the things we're doing are actually halal. And this is, of course, a great question and something that you have every right to ask about, right? When it comes to Islamic finance and halal investing, there are a lot of kind of comments out there on, oh, well, is it really halal? There's a lot of kind of stickers that say halal, but when you dig a little bit deeper, there you kind of uncover that there are things in there that aren't necessarily something that you would actually be okay with. So right here, right now, we use standards called AOFI. This is AAOIFI. And these standards are essentially the standards that we follow in order to make sure that all of our clients' investments are taken care of in a halal way. So to give you a basic understanding of how these standards work, first and foremost, none of our investments contain any forms of interest, right? So if you are looking for investments in, halal equities, different things like that, you're on the right track, but we need to go a little bit further. So none of our investments contain things like fixed income. If you are sitting down with somebody at the bank, if you are talking to an advisor who maybe works for Sun Life or Canada Life or any one of these places who's trying to kind of understand your situation, they might say something like, oh, well, we're not giving you interest, right? We've got a diversified portfolio and it contains 50% fixed income and 50% equity. Well, okay, fixed income means interest, right? GICs means interest. Bonds mean interest. So it's really important that we understand these words in order to determine whether or not the investments that our advisors at the bank or wherever else are actually putting us in are indeed halal. So step number one, we don't deal in any interest-based investments. Second step, we can have investments in the equity sector, which it means profit, but they can't be making profit from haram sources, right? So as we all know, you would never, ever, ever, inshallah, you would never, ever go ahead and open up a casino. You would never go ahead and open up a bar. You would never go ahead and open up anything that is impermissible. You can't make profit that way. So why would you then invest in companies that make profit this way as well, right? So we avoid all of these things. We don't invest in anything related to alcohol, gambling, tobacco, adult entertainment, weapons, drugs, any of these type of things. Now, one of the things that comes out is, okay, well, they're a lot of these companies, they're Western companies. They have they borrow money, they do these other type of things. Like, what's the ruling on that? So once again, we have these standards, the AOFI standards, and they make us screen for certain things, like whether or not a company has too much interest-based debt, right? They can't have debt in excess of 30% of their total value, right? Otherwise, it's impermissible to own those shares, own those companies. And then the other thing to keep in mind is the business activities, right? We are not allowed to invest in a company that has business in haram sectors, right? So for example, and I always use this example, let's say Air Canada or WestJet or something like this. You can invest in those shares. But on a plane, they sell things like alcohol when you're flying from one place to another. So what the scholars have said is that if the amount of revenue they're earning from that sale exceeds 5%, it's impermissible to own these companies, right? If it's under that, you can still own them, but you have to purify 2, 3, 4% of the profits that you earn because they come from an impermissible source. So it's really important that we understand these standards. These are the standards that we follow. Yes, we understand that there are other standards out there that certain people may prefer or choose to follow, whatever the case may be. Alhamdulillah, that's awesome. But these are the ones that we follow. So we just want to make sure that you guys understand that we're not just kind of pulling things out of thin air. And you can go ahead and read these standards on the internet. Just look up AOFI standards and you'll see the type of standards that are followed. Now I'm going to kick it over to Brother Saeed, and he's going to talk about why your money is absolutely safe when you're investing with Manzil.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. So I'd like to start off with a bit of an overview of Manzil and services we provide and how your money is safe with us. So Manzil provides halal financing to the Muslim community and mortgages through the Musharaka or Murabaha model, which is essentially like a profit sharing kind of model, and wealth management services and halal investments, right, based on your risk profile. And we also have halal wills as well. So Manzil is under the Canadian Investment Regulatory Organization. So, and the CIPF, which is the Canadian Investment Protection Fund, which essentially will protect your assets in case Manzil goes bankrupt up to $1 million. So yeah.
Yeah, so this is a really important point, Saeed, and this is something that you guys all need to understand, because one of the things that I hear about all the time is, oh, you know what, I would totally invest with Manzil, or I totally invest my money in a halal way, but I'm a little bit nervous. What happens if you guys go bankrupt and you're not there, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now? Inshallah, that'll never happen. But just in case it does, you do need to understand that, as Brother Saeed said, mashallah, we are protected by the Canadian Investor Protection Fund. So that bank that you feel so safe with, they've got the same CIPF protection. Any company out there that essentially invests your money has to be protected by the Canadian Investor Protection Fund. And it protects each one of your accounts up to $1 million. So if you have a TFSA, an RRSP, and a kids education fund, all worth $1 million each, there's $3 million of protection. So that can put your mind at ease in making sure that your investments are safe, no matter who you are with. So let's get into the bulk of the presentation. Brother Emran, tell us about halal RRSPs.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. So RRSPs, or Registered Retirement Savings Plan. So this is basically money that you're saving for your retirement, right? And every year that you earn an income in Canada, 18% of that income you are allowed to contribute towards this goal. The primary reason for the RRSPs is to save taxes on your taxable income. So taking example of, for simple math, if you are earning $100,000 in income, right? And of course, this is from the year before, from the previous year. If you earned $100,000, 18% of that is what you can contribute into the RRSP, and that would lower your income, taxable income, from 100,000 to 82,000, right? Because if you're putting 80,000 in RRSP, so that's where the tax savings are. So instead of being taxed for $100,000 of your income, you're now only being taxed for 82,000, and that lowers your tax. You'll get a big tax refund at the end of the year, because as you're earning your income, you have source deductions that would have reduced your income anyways in terms of taxation, right? So there's a lot of taxes to be saved when you're saving with the RRSPs. in case you wanted to use the RRSP for down payment of a house or for education. So RRSPs are not only limited to your savings at the when you retire, but for life situations where you want to buy a house and you want some down payments, you can actually use that fund and withdraw it without paying any taxes when you are buying a house, right? So that's a real bonus where you have ready-made down payments that you can leverage, right? Obviously this money you have to pay back over 15 years back, so it's kind of like a loan that you take for your down payment of the house, right? And you can withdraw up to $60,000 per RSP. So what you can basically take out essentially $120,000 if both you and your spouse have an RSP and have $60,000 saved in each of those accounts. You can take $120,000 for the down payment of the house. Likewise, for education, if you wanted to study further, do a degree, or study further for in any degree in Canada in a university, you could actually take up to $20,000 in a lifelong learning plan. That's the plan that you can withdraw for, again, without any taxes, right? And that's the big bonus for having the RSP. Again, you've already got tax benefit from the RRSP, so that's the upfront. And people often ask, okay, so I'm not paying taxes now, but when I withdraw money from the RRSP, I will have to pay taxes. Yes, that's at a much later time during your retirement, where you'll not be earning a lot of income, right? Maybe you're doing some having some income at that time, but not a whole lot. So you're basically saving taxes when you're making a high earning income, and then at that time when you take the money out at the time of retirement, you wouldn't be paying much taxes on that. So your marginal tax rate would be a lot lower. So that's the main advantage of saving up for RSP, along with the two other benefits of using it for house or education without paying any taxes for those funds that you withdraw. So that's the RSP. Would you like to move on to the spousal one, Jesse?
Yeah. So the spousal RSP. Now this is one of those RSPs that is a little bit confusing, but it can be a very powerful tool for a lot of you, especially if you are living in a situation where maybe you're the highest, a much higher earner than your spouse, or maybe your spouse stays home and looks after the kids. MashaAllah, we need that. It's very, very important. But in this case, what could happen is you could put money into your RSP, right? And let's just say your goal is to buy a house in a halal way using the Men's Halal Mortgage, which is fantastic, right? But in order to do that, you need to come up with a 20% down payment. And within Canada, a 20% down payment somewhere like the GTA or Vancouver is like $200,000 for kind of like that entry level house, right? So how do you get there? This is a challenge for sure. But as Brother Emran said, with your personal RSP, you can put up to $60,000 in there. But then a lot of people get worried and they're like, oh, you know what? I'm not sure if I should put any more money into my RSP because I can only take out $60,000 for the down payment. Well, here's where the spousal RSP comes in. What you can do in this situation is you can put money into a RRSP under your wife's name or your husband's name. Maybe your wife's a doctor. MashaAllah, that's great. Either way, you can put money under your spouse's name, and you are the one who gets the tax deduction, right? So let's just say, once again, you earn that $100,000 in a year. MashaAllah, you get $18,000 of contribution room. In a spousal RSP, you put $18,000 under your wife's name. You get that tax deduction, so you're getting $8,000 to $9,000 back in the form of a tax refund. But then that $18,000 that is in under your spouse's name can now be used in addition to the $60,000 you already have in your personal RSP for a down payment for a house. So right here, we've got a way for you to have $60,000 under your name and $60,000 under your wife's name to go towards that down payment for a house. You combine that with the first-time home buyer savings account and tax-free savings account. We're not talking about those today, but just they're out there, right? There you go. There's your $200,000. Now it's just a matter of creating good, solid habits so that you can actually save that amount of money, save on those taxes, and get towards that down payment on a house, inshallah. Now, another thing that a lot of people do, and this is one of the other things about the RSP that's great, spousal RSP that's great, is it does give you a little bit more flexibility, right? So I've had clients who, okay, well, you know what? I'm not entirely sure if I want to put money in RSP. I don't really have a goal of buying a house. It's fine. Everybody's a little bit different. And I'm not sure, what my financial situation is going to be like in a few years. Nobody does, right? But what putting it in a spousal RSP can do for you is it can give you a little bit more flexibility than just putting it in your own RSP, in the sense that when your spouse withdraws, when your wife withdraws, it's being withdrawn under her name and under her tax bracket, right? So if you're in that $100,000 a year range, you're being taxed at around 40%, right? If your spouse isn't working or earning any income, they're in that sort of 15, 20% tax bracket at most, right? So it does give you that flexibility in the sense that you could potentially pull money out of a spousal RSP prior to retirement or the down payment for a house or whatever the case may be. Now, it will be taxed. That does defeat the purpose a little bit, but at least it's not as big of a drawback in that sense. So if you guys have any questions on the spousal RSP, now is the time to ask them. But this can be a fantastic tool to help you maximize your tax saving. We get taxed way too much in Canada. And then put that towards the down payment for a house. I'm going to just leave it for a minute. I'm going to give you guys a chance to ask some questions. Everybody's so quiet. I want to see some questions from the audience. All right, nothing? All right. Well, just don't be sure. If you do have those questions, go ahead, book a call, menzelwealth.ca. We can answer them on a more private basis. Now, the other part I wanted to talk a little bit about was group RSPs, right? So right now, one of the things that is sorely lacking for the Muslim community is halal group RSP options, right? But things are getting a little bit better. So if you have a job, which inshallah most of you do, and your employer offers some sort of group RSP option, if they have options through either Manulife or Canada Life, you do have the possibility of having your group RSP invested in a halal way. I would suggest approach it, like look through the funds. If you don't know kind of what the funds are made up of, we can always help you do that. But if there aren't any halal options available, you can approach your employer and say, hey, listen, we've got this through Manulife or Canada Life. Either of them have it. And we would like the halal option available for our RSP, right? Now, the thing about the group RSP that's great is that your employer contributes a portion of money for whatever you contribute, right? So usually there's some limits, like you could put up to between 5 and 8% of your income into a group RSP, and the employer is going to match at anywhere from 50 to 100%, right? So this can be very, very powerful for your retirement or over the long term. Okay, we've got Omar Abdul here asking a question. Would like to know about mortgage transfer, any RESP plans? Assalamu alaikum, brother Omar. Yes, Menzel can do a halal, do a mortgage transfer. We also have RESP plans. And brother Imran is answering that right there. So what I would say is try your best to choose a halal option through a group RSP, because this can be very powerful over the long term. And if you don't have a halal option, I would say try to fight for a halal option, right? Now, obviously, that's easier said than done. If it's just you at your job and you're the only Muslim guy in the company, like that might be a little bit challenging. But if there are a couple guys who are of the same faith and you guys go to like HR together, talk to them together and say, hey, like we want this halal fund available. We want halal options, right? They're going to be a lot more likely to kind of give you guys what you want because they don't want to lose the talent, right? So it's obviously not a guarantee, but I'm just using this as sort of an example that always it's better to choose the halal option. If there are no halal options available, then, obviously go with a private RRSP. It's not worth the Yom Qiyamah, the Day of Judgment, any of these things to go with a haram option. But I would say if there is a halal option, then go with the halal option. And in some cases, you have to contribute no matter what to keep your job. I completely understand that. And at the very least, we can help you choose the least bad option available for your group RRSP, right? Either way, once again, menzel.ca/wealth. Now, moving on, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an illustration here so that you understand the difference between just contributing to an RSP by yourself versus dealing with a group RSP. So the average income in Canada is around $60,000 to $63,000 a year. This graph here basically tells you that what would happen if you contribute 5% of your income per year. If you're the average Canadian contributing 5% of your income to a group RSP versus an individual. So on the left-hand side, this is if you put 5% of sort of 62,000 a year and contribute it into an RSP by yourself, right? After a 30-year period, assuming a return of around, 8 to 10% a year, you'll have around $400,000 for your retirement, right? Now, if you do this in a group RSP, contribute 5% of your income, and your employer matches 50% of that, by the time you go to retire, you'll have $545,000, almost $546,000. If they match 100%, get close to that $805,000 range, right? So once again, this one on the left-hand side, investment one, this is if you put 5% of your income into an RSP by yourself. Investment two is if you put it into a group RSP where your employer matches 50%. And the third option is if your employer matches 100%. So like I said, if you can get a halal option for group RSP, obviously that's going to give you a better return and make you more money over the long term. But what I would say, I always say, choose the halal option. That's the best option first if you can't get these other two available. So this is the basics of the presentation, the basics of RSPs, spousal RSPs, and group RSPs. And the whole reason why we wanted to focus on RSPs is that the RSP deadline is March 3rd. What does that mean? That means that if you contribute to an RSP before the March 3rd deadline, it'll save you on taxes for 2024. So for the vast majority of our clients, the vast majority of us, what happens is we get a tax deduction off of every single one of our paychecks. And so by putting money into your RSP now before this March 3rd deadline, the government is going to look at it as though you have paid too much in taxes. So they're going to give you back a larger tax refund than you would normally get. And this is by contributing to your RSP. So contribute to your RSP before this March 3rd deadline, reduce your taxes for 2024. And that is the main part of the presentation from us. If you guys have any questions, feel free to answer them. We'll wait around here for as long as you guys have questions, really. But if there are no questions, we'll wait here for about 5 minutes, inshallah. And once again, go ahead, book a call on the menzel.ca/wealth website. I'll put it in here again. Ask your questions, and we can go from there.
Right. Jesse, I'd like to add to this for the deadline piece, is that you don't have to wait for the deadline to actually do your RRSP contribution, right? Because we could be starting right now today for next year, for 2025. If you put in money regularly, on a monthly basis, bi-weekly basis, grow it. So by the end of the year, you will actually have that 10%, 18% of your income already saved up, so that you don't have to come up with a big chunk of money, come the next year's Feb deadline where you have to put money in, right? So it's always good to first have that regular, savings, happening, on a bi-weekly, monthly basis. It grows your money throughout the year. So now you've got, a lot bigger, profit in that. as well as it will be used for your 2025 offset of your tax deduction as well. So don't wait. But if you've not already done that for 2024, then this is the time now to do it for the previous year's tax deduction.
Yeah, I 100% agree, right? And small and consistent, what we've seen from our clients is that if you do small things consistently over a long period of time, it makes a huge difference. Our best performing clients are the ones that, invest regularly, contribute regularly, and they see returns regularly. What will be the minimum amount bi-monthly that I can invest? From Brother Ahmed. This is, mashallah, this is fantastic. There is no minimums. We want to take on anyone and everyone who wants to do things the halal way. What I would say is pick an amount that you are not going to miss, right? So for a lot of people, that's $50 a month. For some people, that's $100 a month. But it should feel so easy that you don't even think about it, right? And then as time goes on, you slowly and gradually add to that amount, right? But it should feel so effortless and so easy. It should almost feel like you're not doing anything, but rest assured, it'll make a huge impact over the long term. I contributed to my spousal RSP recently. Will you be issuing any contribution receipts? Yes. What'll happen typically, this is from Brother Shabazz, all the contributions that you make, they will essentially issue contribution slips after that kind of March 3rd deadline. So you should receive something, I would say, mid-March for those contributions. Are there any other questions about RSPs? Oh, Brother Imran, one thing you mentioned to me, we should just talk a little bit about is pension adjustment and how that can work with RSPs. So you go ahead and just talk about that briefly.
Sure. So basically, when you are working in your employment and you have a pension plan with your company, right, or organization, that is a great savings for your retirement. And just to let you know that basically adds to your RRSP contribution room as well, right? So usually companies would save or anywhere around 8% of your income towards your pension, right? So that 8% is basically going towards your contribution room for the year as well. And then so anything outside of that, up to the 18% limit is what you can contribute, right? So rest assured that anyone who's having a pension plan with their organization, that's a great retirement, and that basically supplements the RRSP itself. So you have to take that into account, because the reason this is important, because you don't want to be over contributing, right? Because then there's a penalty as well. So RSP contribution 18% of the year, or 30,000. It's 31,560 to be exact for 2024, and of course that number keeps increasing with inflation every year, right? So make sure that when you are contributing to your RSP, you've taken into account any group RSP pension, group RSP matching that you're doing with your organization, with your employment, any pension plan that you're paying into in your organization, and then the balance, the rest from that 18% is what you're contributing on the personal side, on a personal RRSP. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that pension adjustment.
Will we have this video recorded? Yeah, there's it should be recorded. Let me quickly just post a link right here where you can go ahead and see it again. And then after that, we'll call it a day.
Do folks have the opportunity to talk about their questions, or is it just through the chat? Jesse?
Yeah, feel free to ask any more questions. I'm just getting this.
Okay, Brother Ahmed. So, inshallah, we can definitely talk about halal mortgage. But this session was specifically for the RRSPs. Inshallah, we will have other sessions, inshallah, for mortgages. But
Join the session late. I'm interested. So, how is the All right, so Brother Muiz, if you click this link there on YouTube, you can go ahead and like review the presentation from the very beginning there. Yeah, we're going to have another session for Halal Mortgages pretty soon. But yeah, that would be the right way to go about it. And then, of course, if you wanted to set up a Halal RSP, set up kids' education plans, TFSA, you can reach out to Brother Emran, myself, or Brother Faiz. Soon Said will be available for those of you in Alberta. But that's it for now, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Mustafa. You can get a mortgage through anybody. You can take out your money and use it for a down payment, no matter who you're going with. Obviously, we advise as brothers in Islam that you choose a halal mortgage option. But at the end of the day, you can get your money out no problem for a down payment, no matter who you're getting your mortgage with, or how you're buying your house. Okay, if there are no more questions, Jazakallah khair, Assalamu alaikum, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.